Hello everyone, welcome to our second video on the latest property development feature. The previous video that we did, if you haven't watched it, please go back and watch it, as we're just going to continue from there. As you can expect, we've had a little bit more questions from the last video, and we're going to answer some of those ahead of the update, which is happening in a few days' time, where everyone can go in and buy land sales and take part, no longer having to wait. But as you may notice, we are absent of Chris. Chris isn't here. It's just San and myself. Just like you know, both San and myself are sick. Chris even more so, hence him not being here. So gonna get straight onto the questions. And San, I hope you're ready to deal with twice the burden.
I'm completely ready, but I want to give Ferg the warning that whatever I say, or whatever we say, we don't have Chris here
To rein
tell
us
us off
in.
if we go off. Yeah, to rein us in and keep us on track.
So
We will attempt to be 100% accurate, but you're dealing with the less accurate crowd of the team here. So preface it with we're not going to be able to talk about algorithms and things like that. We'll try and keep it on track, but we're both a little bit ill and high on various suppressants. So please bear with us.
So full disclaimer. Take everything we're currently saying with a pinch of salt until Chris confirms or denies it.
Exactly.
Okay, so first question. Immediately after the users had access to the discounts and they could see how much the properties are going to cost them, they went out and bought plots and then started to see their discount depreciate. And they wanted to ask, how is that depreciation calculated? And what is influencing it?
So, like I said, we're not going to go into details on the actual algorithm, but there is a depreciation that goes in 5 stages. So the first discount is 90%, second, 70, third, 50, fourth, 30, and fifth, 10. That means that what we're doing is we're helping people get on board with the purchase. We're helping people get in who want to get in, and we're helping those that have invested in an area make sure that they can take claim to that area. It's also about ensuring new people can get on board on the property ladder, but it's about also making sure that somebody doesn't just go in and buy everything because they can. So that balance has been something that Chris and myself spent a lot of time trying to work out. I got input from the team. We sat there, we played it, we bought stuff on the dev servers, and we tried to work out what felt right. We feel that this lets people get on board. It means that people that really want to purchase many plots have to start considering the actual economic costs of that, whereas the people that want to get involved in areas that they have heavily invested in can do that cheaply. I think we've seen quite a few people be able to buy plots for about $50, which is the minimum, which is obviously a really, really fair deal. And you will have noticed that maybe your second plot isn't $50, where somebody else's is. I think that's where the key discrepancy comes up. Yeah, so one of the things that we want to make sure is really clear, the prices of a plot, even though the plot value is fixed and it's the same for everybody, the actual price that you would pay as an individual for a plot is going to be different. So what I would pay versus what you would pay, Nikki, are going to be different based upon the discounts that we've got, based upon the which plot it is. If it's my first plot, how much discount I've got for that, second or third plot, as well as how much I've invested in the area and or how much I've invested in areas nearby. So therefore, don't be surprised if you come to look at a plot and the price of a plot and your friend can get it for 50, but you've got to pay a couple of hundred for it. That is quite normal. So don't feel bad about that, but do be aware that they are fairly priced. It is based upon an algorithm that takes into account a lot of different things, ranging from the investments you've made through to what you've bought and how much you've bought.
That explains why some people who have built up entire districts across multiple plots can get all those plots for $50 because they're heavily invested in one area. For those who have invested all over, it's slightly different.
Another question that we've seen quite a bit is somebody saying, well, I've bought in this plot and I've got this many properties, but somebody else has bought this many properties, and yet I seem to have fewer properties but more ability to buy next door. I'm the top investor next door. And that's going to be because the plot that you've invested in accurately you might have fewer of, but the fewer that you have might be closer to the center, and the ones that the other person has is further away from an adjoining plot's center, and therefore you are the top investor because his fall outside of the diameter of the area that would be, or hers fall
Mhm.
outside of the diameter of the area that would be calculated. So even though it may seem a little bit black box, it is based upon algorithms that Chris has triple
Yeah.
checked and had other people on the team check. So
Yeah.
it's all good. Just be aware. Don't expect the same price from player to player.
Yeah, as well as that, I think Chris even mentioned the new star discount isn't something that he foresees sticking around forever, and
No.
that in future they'll have to think of another way to encourage new starters to take part in the feature. So
Yeah.
so
The current land sales are built very much around supporting the early players and the people that have adopted the app early and been in there early. We're adding land sales to the app after everybody's bought properties, and we're making sure that we account for that and we don't unfairly treat people that have spent money already.
yeah,
That's the main concept, and that will be adjusted over time. So don't expect it to stay the same. Do expect it to change, but be aware that it will probably always have that slight difference between players as to what a plot costs.
so there really is like a benefit in getting involved now rather than leaving it too late.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Especially if you're somebody who actually cares about the plot. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Again, to reiterate, this is about making sure, not about like a land grab, but making sure that you're out there and you're taking ownership of the areas that you want to look after, that you want to curate, that you want to caretake for.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's very much what we're looking to achieve.
Yeah. So kind of a follow-on to that really is based on the fact that the discount is depreciating or dependent on where people have invested, they can get it for different amounts. Should people be going around buying up multiple plots, or is it better to take advantage of just buying one or two and focusing on building up those small areas?
So this really does depend on the individual. There are going to be some people that have invested in an area, in a plot, want to own that one plot, and they don't really care about the plots. They might want to look after them later or something like that, but they want to invest in one plot. There's nothing wrong with that. That is exactly how this is intended to play out. If that's all you have an interest in, go buy the plot that you've got, get in there, take ownership of it, look after it, and as we enable the features for editing and managing that plot, take control and make it the plot that you want it to be.
Yeah.
Well, that is perfectly cool. At the same time, there are other people who will see this as an opportunity to go out and either make an investment or do something on a larger scale where they want to take and create a whole city, or they already have gone in and created something like the New York City area or the Women's World or Lakeside or 100 other places across the map. And fair enough. Either you want to do that with a group, maybe there's a group of you that want to go in and buy together, or maybe there's one person that wants to be the manager and the owner of that area, but work with other people on how you're going to manage that area together. You know, we're not here to tell you how this is supposed to be played. This is for you to decide. It should be fun, and if there's enjoyment that you have out of owning a larger city, you're welcome to it. And that's very much the goal. Like I say repeatedly, the key thing that we care about is making sure that the people that own the land care about the land, look after the land, and maintain the land. And that's what we're hoping will happen.
Yeah.
Whether that's one plot or the whole city, that's really up to the user.
I've seen like there's been a very, very mixed approach to it. Some people who are heavily committed to developing one or two plots are already developing their plans, their grand ideas, but then there are others who are saying, well, in the future we said that we're going to make multiverse available on other platforms. So maybe now is the time to try and get as much as you can and maybe sell to those people who might join from other platforms. So I can see it from both sides. So we're not going to dictate.
No, this isn't about us dictating. This is about us. I think Chris put it quite well, crowdsourcing the curation and the management, because this is something that can't scale. What we've been doing for the last 9 months is great. We've seen us put a lot of, effort and love into looking after different areas, but we can't do it across the board. And there are loads of areas that have been neglected or forgotten because we just don't have the time, energy, or we have to make choices.
We're a small team. We're not God.
That is something that obviously can limit players in their ability to take this app to where it should go and could go. And by doing this, we're sort of letting people come in and help in
It's better for the users to do it anyway, because it's their creative vision. They have a better grasp of what they want.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to either do as good a job as everybody or curate it and look after it as much as individuals can. So yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So before we go on to the next question, just to provide some context for those of you who may not have read the pre-update notes, prior to the property development going out, we made it people aware that as it currently stands for unlimited buildings, there is a cap every 10 levels or so, and we have been doing that ourselves at the moment. But whenever it becomes available, when it becomes available to people to upgrade, they need to increase the cap, and we made that clear prior to the update. But people are now kind of asking, how is it calculated, and is there a way of them to be able to predict how much the future upgrade costs will be on their buildings, and what influences it?
The key idea here is that if a building were on an empty plot of land and there were no buildings or plots nearby with any buildings on, then that building would have a cost for each apartment and each floor to purchase into. And that would be the base price. That is the minimum that a building would cost. And as it grows taller, it would go up in value. Each new floor would cost more. But the price of the floor wouldn't be as high as, for example, in Grand Central, where there are so many other buildings nearby, so many other plots with hundreds of buildings, and all of those buildings filled up with people, that those other buildings have an effect on the price of the building that is growing. So Grand Central has become a lot more expensive than it would be if it were alone out in the middle of nowhere. And knowing that, you can get a concept of what the minimum cost for upgrading a building would be, and the minimum revenue that the plot owner would get for a building that was on an empty plot around other empty plots, and it was just growing. And we use that as the base price. So the very least that you would earn as a plot owner for owning that building as it grew is what we call the minimum value.
Yeah.
And using that minimum value, we are able to say, well, our intentions as an app, as a company, are to give these properties real economic value. And when we do that, we can't let other people just infinitely grow a building to be infinitely tall, because that would mess with the economy. It would mess with the value and the scarcity and the value that has been determined by players. It is you guys and the players that have defined where the value is and how much that value is. And if we could let somebody mess with that, without inputting money to grow it, that would change the economy drastically, and that would be bad for everybody. So what we've done is we've said, we know what the value of a building is as it grows, and that value, not the entire cost at all, but a fraction of that value is what we're going to charge you for upgrading the next 10. So if the next 10 were going to give you a certain income, we would calculate a fraction of that income as the cost for the upgrade. So it might seem like a lot. The cost to upgrade a building from 10 to 20 or 15 to 25 or whatever it is might seem a lot, but compared to the actual value it will bring you as the plot owner for when you've sold those 10, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
And especially given that there's probably going to be other buildings around that are going to be pushing up the value of that property. So as a result, I think it's important to know, again, value of growing a plot will be different based upon the height of the plot and the base height.
Yep.
So a plot that starts at 10 with a minimum height versus a plot that starts with a minimum height of 15, the next 10 are going to be different priced for both of those two plots, because you're actually growing it from 15 to 25, and the other one you're going from 10 to 20. So therefore, the cost increase of those is going to be slightly different. However, it would be the same for a building that was 10 being
if they were both the same,
and another building was 10 upgrading to 20. So those things are predictable. It's also important to understand that you can upgrade a building more than once. So if you want to focus your properties around one area, and there's one building that you want to be the beacon of your plot, and you want that building to be able to grow tall and not have to worry about it, you can upgrade that building a couple of times in advance before growing it, or people buy into it. So I can't give you the actual price per upgrade, because that would vary.
It's too much math, and only Chris really knows the answer.
Yes. But it is very fairly calculated, and even though the prices may seem high, the actual value that new enabled plot can give you on your building, and the sale of the apartments in that building can give you, is significantly more than the
Yeah.
upgrade cost.
I think from my perspective, from the way I see it, is it's the minimum value.
Yes.
So if you're in the position where you need to increase your cap, you're already in good stead. Those floors have been filled, and
Exactly.
you're going to almost guarantee that those next few floors will be filled because there's a demand. And as it's the minimum, provided you're not underselling or you're under
Exactly.
promoting those
Yes.
properties, you stand to make quite a lot of return, and that minimum is purely there as probably what you need to set aside to pay for the next upgrade. So
Precisely. So yeah, you should think about it as, let's say you own a building in New York and you want to make it taller. It's going to cost you to make it taller, but at the same time, it's not going to cost you as much as the revenue you're going to make from selling those apartments once it is taller. And that's the sort of psychology we have to have here. So yeah, imagining growing all the buildings on your plot, and you've got some plots have 20 buildings, less, 0, because they're green grass or something. But let's say a plot that's a city plot might have something from 20 to 130. I think that's the biggest I counted. I didn't check for which ones were skyscrapers or not, but you know, something in that region. And obviously that could cost you a lot of Metacoin to upgrade everything at the same time. But again, we wouldn't recommend that, just like we don't recommend going in and buying 100 plots. You might end up owning 100 because you grow your first plot, you expand it, you get a second, you get a third, and eventually you own 100. Or you could choose to, if you're rich and want to do that, and that's what you want to do. Great, go and do that. However, I think it's the same with the buildings on your plot. You should think, well, this building has the good view. This building is the one I want to bring people into. I'm going to grow that one. I'm going to let people invest in that. And then we use the money from that to grow some other buildings and get people in there. Once you think about it in that way, you'll see that it works, and the maths do work. We've checked that a lot. It is actually very valuable and will generate a lot of return.
Yeah, that's the point. The whole point of this is aimed at maximizing the purchase profit you could get from people coming to your plots. So think tactically, think strategically. Maybe don't give away all of your properties for free. I wouldn't.
Remember that if you're doing that, you're actually going to end up paying for it with the upgrade cost.
Exactly. So, might be a good idea to, I suppose it's a good tactic for making sure that people on your plot from day one. So
it's your call. Again.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, based on the cost of upgrades, is it better for people to buy plots that already have tall buildings, or is it better to get ones that spread more out?
So again, very, very subjective. I think each individual person will have a different plan and plot attractiveness. So for me personally, I like the idea of buying an area that is successful, owning that area and helping make it more of a success. Key examples of places like that would be Grand Central, Cherry Springs, where we've seen people do that already, and also places like the Art District. A place that is a place that you can invest more in. There is a negative to that, which is that some of those places are going to be a little bit more protected. You're not going to be able to change the stuff on the Art District. You're not going to be able to say, well, I don't like the position of the man with his chest open, I want to move it there.
It's protected. So
those are protected. So that really comes down to how much curation you want to do, how much creativity you want to have, and what your end goals are. And one of the things that Chris and I often you beat into us is that users are different, and we can sit here, isolated in our team, thinking this is how it's going to work. This is going to be good for people. It's going to allow X, Y, and Z. And then a user comes along with a completely different idea that throws everything out the window. And like, oh, okay, no, he's right. He's thought of the thing, or she's thought of the thing.
Do that thing now.
Yeah, we need to support that because that's much cooler than what we thought. And that psychology is how we have to go about building this game and this app and this product. Is how do we make it such that people can express themselves? People can take ownership for what they want to, and there's no right or wrong way to play or use or build or create. That's up to you.
It's entirely preference of the users then.
Yeah. So there will be some ways that are going to be more profitable, but I don't think everybody is in this for profit. There are people out there doing things because of passion for an idea or a concept or a district and love of that district, and it's not about reaping in tons of Metacoin, in which case great, then do what suits you. And I think we're going to try and enable as much support for that individual user as we can and
Yeah.
the various different tactics that they will have. So don't feel bad about you choosing to do something else. Nikki, you can build your Nikki Town. I'll take over something
Oh,
if I'm
really?
ever allowed to.
I
I'll
really
take over
wanted to buy
something.
Central City and, and kick out Chris from
Kick
Cryonic
out Chris, yeah.
Circus. That's the plan. Erect a giant gold statue of your face right outside his balcony window.
That would definitely get him sacked.
Psychologically force him out. Poor Chris. So a lot of people are already really, really excited about what is to come now that they own the plots. I've seen quite a lot of people say, "So I own a plot. What now?" And I can see the excitement building. I can see that they're really interested to know what's going to be part of the editor mode and what editor options. But more importantly, the most pressing question, because of the upgrade costs, is: are those upgrade costs a reflection of potentially what editing costs might be, and are there going to be any editing costs?
So first of all, that is a huge topic that is really exciting, and I can't wait for us to allow people to finally have access to these tools. I mean, myself included. We curate and manage some of the plots still, and we're going to continue to do that until they're bought for us. And it's very difficult to to make changes at the moment because anything has to go through a code team, and if we want to change the style, we've got to get the code team to do that. So being in a position where that is a tool that is enabled and can be played with and used, even if it's on the dev servers, just going in and doing stuff, it's going to be fun. So I think it'll be a powerful experience. I think it will change the world a lot, and I think we will suddenly get an exponential increase in diversity, which is what we want. Regarding the pricing, the key thing we try to do when we look at this is there are two aspects to pricing. One is the economy of the app, making sure that by allowing something to happen, we don't unfairly weigh something in somebody's favor and allow for exploit. For example, let's just take the big statues like Lady Liberty. You'll have noticed for those, I think Sakura, the Cherry Spring Princess, has been purchased, and the person who owns that plot now has a significant discount on purchasing plots nearby because of the gentrification bonus. And that type of thing is an important thing to remember in the pricing, because if we made something like that very cheap, it would unfairly allow people to abuse the exploit of buying plots nearby cheaper. So anything that has an effect on, for example, the gentrification bonus will probably have a cost because of the fact that it's affecting the economy, and that will be potentially significant.
And so just to clarify, that the gentrification bonus is influenced by anything that's added that adds value.
So gentrification bonus is something that Chris termed, that I wasn't too hot with, but we're running with it now because he didn't change the name before launch. But the gentrification is basically, how do you make something nicer? And by making it nicer, you add value. So if you gentrify your district, it could be by adding just a little teapot statue somewhere. That isn't necessarily going to add a gentrification bonus, but it is going to be a little bit pretty. However, a unique statue or something with a limited set or something large and grand like Lady Unity or the Guardians of Alliance City, something of that nature is going to be a very powerful bonus to the owner for purchasing land nearby. And in doing so, it's going to also draw in a lot of users from a economy point of view. It's going to be, wow, I want to be able to look at that statue. I want to have a building that looks onto that statue in that area. So we cannot let those go cheap, simply because of the nature of their impact on the economy. However, on the other end of the scale, you've got things like adding trees or adding a style to the buildings, or adding a small statue that isn't unique but is actually infinitely reusable, like a banana or a carrot that we've already got in there, or preferably something new, cool, that we'll be bringing to the table. But a lot of those things are going to be smaller tokens. They're not necessarily going to add a significant impact or any impact to the gentrification and a bonus, and therefore they're going to be able to be given away either for free or cheap. We're not going to talk about exactly which one is where, but the idea for us is to enable users to curate in a way that adds value to the world,
Hmm.
and at the same time do that in a way that doesn't involve huge spend,
Yeah.
unless you're doing something outrageous like building a new
Yeah.
city guardian.
And I think Chris
Um,
even said that the whole point of this was to allow everybody in some way to be able to gentrify or improve their plots without having to pay more. But obviously, the bigger stuff will cost more. I even said that there will be some free stuff. So
yes, there will be free things, there will be things that are cheap, and there will be things that are mid-priced, and there are things that are expensive. And it's going to be up to the individual to evaluate which one of those they want and how. I could imagine a scenario where, the size of the statue that you drop also has an impact. It's a lot of different things like that that will come into play. We can't give you exact details because we're still balancing and fine-tuning all of these things. So it would be wrong for us to state, this is going to be free, this is going to be expensive, this is going to be mid-priced. We'll work that out as we go along. The other thing is what is going to be available. And we talked about a lot. I'm going to go out on a limb and be a very producery person, do a little pie in the sky talking. So this is prefaced by, it is pie in the sky thinking. This is where we would like to go. There is no promises that we will actually be able to do this.
And it depends on Chris confirming or denying it. Yeah.
Chris confirming, denying it, as well as technically what's possible, because a lot of these things hinge on the memory limitations of the headset, the power of the processor, and a whole load of other things. So reskinning an environment like we've done between Grand Central and New York, or the villages, those different buildings have different styles. That's something that we would like to do a lot more of. We would like users to be able to have the ability to skin Cyber City in a sort of cyberpunk manner. We'd like to have people take Sakura and the area in Cherry Springs and maybe give it a bit of an Asian feel or a Japanese feel. We would like to be able to have different types of plants and biomes, so you could give your area a biome feel that felt like the desert, or like cherry blossom in spring in Japan, or tundra, or I don't know, elven forests for Alliance City, or a whole load of different things of that nature. I can't tell you which of those we'll get and how many will be available, because it's going to have a huge impact on how we manage the memory footprint of the app and the usage of the app. So those things are, we're going to see what we can get to. We're going to give as much as we can, and we'll be limited by technical limitations as always, and then plow our way through those. But other things would be obviously statues, little lakes and parks and bigger parks, and in the way that we've seen the villages are all plotted around a park. You'd be able to do something like that, but you'd also be able to convert a little brown asphalt area in your plot into something prettier,
so people could make desert islands that they're dreaming of.
Well, that's it. So the Caribbean district, they want to be able to put palm trees down, they want to be able to have a boat and make it feel a little bit more cozy and related to that area. Perfect in my mind. And that's exactly the sort of thing that we want people to be able to do. Same thing. So skinning buildings, skinning the biome of the environment. There will be limitations because we can't necessarily have 10 biomes all next to each other. Just memory won't allow for that. So there are going to be some things like that we have to navigate, and Chris will define what is or isn't possible. Maybe it is possible. But yeah, that type of thing is going to be big. Chris has talked about future things that he would love to do, and we're not necessarily going to be able to get there anytime soon whatsoever. But floating mountains in the sky like Avatar,
big dreams,
cave systems, these are the sorts of things that we'd like to get to. However, how long will it take to get there? What will it need to get there? Who knows?
It's not all just dependent on us. We need to keep going at the pace and the limitations of the tech that we have. So
exactly. So as the hardware continues to improve and we see new devices, not the Quest Pro, but for example Quest 3, even when that comes out, or equivalent devices elsewhere, we will be able to do more and more with the app, and that will be reflected in what we achieve and put in. So we would love this to be an open world experience where there is a little bit of everything, and that wherever you want to go, you can go and find a new view, a new type of world, a world that suits you, whether it's Horror Town or the Wild West, or I don't know what. There's a million places out there that we want to allow people to curate and turn into their own. And at the same time, obviously converting mountains into flatland, or lakes into flatland, or mountains into lakes, or lakes into mountains, and or mountains into flatland with city on. Those
Yeah.
are all things that we are going to be looking into doing and providing. And it's going to be an important thing for everybody to understand that this is a journey of
Yeah.
us increasing and enabling more things, just like it has been.
Just as well as that, to kind of highlight that this isn't some of the stuff that you're talking about now, that the changes that you want to do aren't guaranteed to happen this year. Like in terms of the stuff that we can expect to happen this year, Chris has explained that we're kind of at the moment working to what he's calling a minimum viable product, which means that we need to get things all together working functionally without it exploding when we do add these golden statues of San, and make sure that we can deliver those minimum. But that does also include trying to get the map room set up, which a couple of people have been in and out of, and they really enjoy that room. I saw the tiny corgi. Like you go in there, all the statues are tiny, and there's something about seeing the corgi this big. Oh, can't wait.
Yeah, I think the world that we've got is quite special, and it's difficult to get that overview from the mini map or from standing in the streets and looking around. But when you're in the map room and you're looking down on the city or the world or your plot or whatever it is, you see the storefront logos and icons, and you see the statues and you see the trees. It's a very amazing feeling. I mean, you've probably all tried something like Google Earth in VR.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. But this is even more amazing.
It's more personalized.
Yeah,
it's great.
So I think, map room, one of the big things, and I can't tell you how it's going to work, but the conversations that we've been having are around, an ease of placing and editing these things so that the flow becomes easy, and you say, well, I want to do this here, this there, and it becomes a fluid, fun, pleasant experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably the first iteration will be single player, and then we'll enable it for multiplayer. There are some issues there. So don't expect everything first go, but do expect the ability to be able to edit plots, do some changes to your plot, and evaluate things like building growth, showing a building in red that is, capped and needs to be grown, or something else. Those are all things that you can expect to see.
You've pretty much covered all the topics. The only thing, there are one or two other things, but we don't have enough time. So what I'll do is I'll plan to do another video later on, or maybe we'll be doing an AMA. But in the meantime, thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for providing us the questions and allowing us to answer. And we hope these videos are useful.
Snotty noses and,
yeah, and thank you, Chris, even though you're not here. I mean, people are truly appreciating the creations that you've done, and I hope that your health improves and doesn't stay sick for too long, because I think the world can't cope, Infiniverse can't cope without Chris. We already know Sam's going to put statues in front of your house, so Chris, you're on limited time here. I'm sorry. All right, everyone. See you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah, bye, guys.